Weeping Icon, welcome back to My Little Underground. It's good to see you too.
Good to see you too. Sarah R says hi,
Of
and so does
course.
Heather L. ELLE.
Love them. Both of them are great. I have yet to meet Heather yet, but Sara
They're
R.
really,
What up? What up?
really wonderful. They're a great addition to the band. And yeah, Sarah R is with her family right now.
How did Heather come into the band? Become an icon.
I met Heather. I actually asked Heather's project, Flossing, to play with Weeping Icon when I was booking a show for us. I guess the last time we booked a show before this one. Anyway, a while ago. Some other show I booked for us. Asked them to open, they couldn't. But then we started talking just through Instagram, and yeah, then met up, then hung out a bunch, and they were really cool. And then when we've always been kind of looking for a noise person to kind of complete us, but we weren't actively necessarily looking for a little bit of time. And yeah, I think I just asked, and Heather was interested, and then went from there. Oh, cool.
Being
Great.
being a complete outfit now, when I'm listening to Ocelli, and this is the first effort of Weeping Icon since the first album. Are you thinking of reinventing yourselves at all? Like, do you feel like when you're recording something, are you thinking, well, we made this song before? You know, has that ever come up at all?
I think that when we create, like we were talking about this the other day in another interview, and Lani was talking about how, what's normal for us and not normal for most bands, but what is normal for us is to create all together. That everything is written together in the room together, completely collaborative process. And so I think every song ends up really different. Nothing, occasionally we do something we're like, oh no, that really sounds like this other thing we did, but for the most part, everything ends up sounding really different. And I guess it's kind of difficult to put our finger on if we are changing as a band. It kind of almost takes putting out an entire body of work, like the next album that we're working on, that is just going to be a lot darker and heavier, and sort of seeing where we are in that chapter. To be able to really notice that there's been any sort of marked change, because every song is so different from the next, at least to us in our construction, the way that we approach it, that it's kind of, hard to even realize, we don't get stuck in a thing necessarily, because it's always different and weird.
I know when I'm listening to this, I hear a lot more droning. And to what you were saying, Sarah, about everything sounding different, like two ways, and it goes right into Everything Has Eyes, and it's like it's a totally different ride. Like, so am I to expect, or are we to expect a lot more droning or more riffing going on? You know what I mean?
I think a little bit of A and B.
Okay,
As we do.
let's go.
But I know that Sarah got a freeze pedal recently, so I think there might still be some droning happening in some other songs.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I think that we like to create ambiance, and because of that, we like to create space in our spatial noise parts, and I think we're bringing that also to our sound in our regular songs. I don't know if this I'm like, calling our songs just regular songs, but it'll all be more, I don't know. I think things are coming together in sort of a more cohesive kind of way.
I would have to agree, because when I'm listening to this, I'm hearing songs that you can experience, but not too much so where it's just like an art installation. It's not actually music.
Yeah, I guess that is kind of what we're going for. So thank you. The
Yeah.
sort of marriage between creating like a pop song, but having it be like full on art and sort of making it some weird thing in the middle that not necessarily everybody's going to get, but we love.
Yeah. And then when I'm hearing a song like Two Ways, which is something that you can experience, it kind of reminds me of Like Envy. It puts you in perspective of how you're acting in your everyday life of us living in this digital world. Like, how are you acting in the digital space versus how you're acting in real life? The
Oh,
people that you're calling out on social media for doing this thing are not living up to this moral high ground, but how are you living in your actual life?
Yeah, that's true.
That's very true.
Oh, wow, Peter, you should write all our statements. Good thinker.
Yeah.
You should be in the writing room with us.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
It's interesting though, because Two Ways definitely is like a sarcastic kind of like, you know, you're looking as that person and expressing it in the song. But then Pig Shit and Trash is actually, it's also the same thing. It's talking about you know, like pointing at these like kind of government officials and being like, what are you doing like in your, you know, in your home life? Like it's kind of, you know, it's actually it's interesting that, because we didn't exactly put those together when we were writing them, but I think the message is pretty similar of just like you know, what are you putting out there? Like what are you saying the things that you actually want to change, or I don't know.
Yeah, I think like it was definitely discussed that there were similar motifs, even though they were like different approaches, and that Everything Has Eyes was supposed to be this sort of like mixing those messages and getting from point A to point B, like how you go from just being like a regular motherfucker to the to like a government official level motherfucker. But I think, you know, in this moment talking about it, that probably is the central message in our band, is the dichotomy between like who you really are being in the world versus what you're putting out, like what, you know, or the image of yourself versus who you truly are, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I think back to, I wasn't even thinking about the government per se, Lani, but when I was listening to Like Envy, when you dropped that song, it's almost like we're creating characters of ourselves on social media and creating this kind of unrealistic expectation or schedule. I post at this time every day at 3 p.m. But this song is like, I was listening to this on the train today, and I was thinking about my own life. Like, how am I acting on the internet? How am I acting when I do this podcast? How am I acting in front of people? Then how am I acting in my actual life? What are my actions saying? You know, it's really interesting. Like, is our interaction with the internet, or it doesn't have to be the internet, just how we go about life and how we create this facade for ourselves. Are you that existential when you're making music, or are you just, let's just jam and be musicians and then we conceptualize?
I mean, I think it's usually B, like the second thing you said, where we just come in and we jam. But yeah, we did talk about this the other day about how just it's kind of we weirdly, like, we'll go into the practice space, we'll have a lot to say about the world and about things and about all the things that are going on in life that we you know, gossip about or whatever, and then we jam, and then I guess those feelings and those moods stick when we jam. So then when we're actually creating lyrics and creating overall mood and vibe, yeah, it kind of, it's weird because it happens kind of magically and not necessarily forced, I don't think. I mean, Sarah, do you agree? I don't know.
Yeah, I think that our band like is kind of like our therapy space in a lot of ways, and so we go in and like actually chat about stuff and about what's going on in our lives and the world. And so like you said, that sets the mood for the music and what we want to release, and then we start saying words, and it's like these things that kind of really stick with us a lot end up kind of being motifs that we return to and want to integrate in the songs. And then we're like, that's what this should be about, or like that's, you know, we get kind of excited about that.
Yeah, because when I'm listening to these songs or any of your songs, it's it's similar to what we talk about offline, and it's great to see that come to fruition in the most organic way. You know what I mean? I'm interpreting this song one way, but you're gonna talk to somebody tomorrow and they're gonna tell you something else. And I think that's what makes for it kind of an interesting, artistic tune. Even though I do love songs that are not about anything, that's cool too. But it just so happens to be that Weeping Icon makes music that's about something, whatever it may be. You guys are playing shows now, and it probably took you a while to get comfortable with the idea of playing shows again, because the last time you put out music, there was a big disease in between that. So when did you decide, okay, we're ready to do this? And going forward, are you trying to put out, not put out, go on a tour or anything like that? I know you did a little one in early 2020.
Well, Sarah and we work in bars, and throughout the entire pandemic, we actually had to work. So to be very frank with you, I never truly, I was afraid, I was scared, I, didn't know what the future would hold and all that, but I still wanted to practice, and I still wanted to continue working in some way, somehow. And I think we pushed because, that because we were, that's just what we wanted to do and what we wanted to get out of life. I mean, I'm only really speaking from my own perspective, but I personally never really stopped. I felt like playing actual shows was definitely strange, only because, I mean, who wants to play a show when people aren't willing to go see you? So that was the main reason for me. I mean, aside from getting my family members sick and things like that around the holidays. So, I mean, but it was very natural for us to just continue playing, I think. And it was a new world, but
yeah, we didn't play for like 4 months probably, but then at a point we started playing again because we had to, and we wore masks and we kept our windows open until the practice space yelled at us. And over time, we learned more about it, and we started playing shows, I think, once, everybody was pretty reasonably vaccinated and New York was pretty safe, and anybody that, like, everybody had access to it, that it was important that everybody could have access at that point, and that anybody who chose to not get vaccinated, that was their choice, but everybody who wanted to protect themselves in that way had the option to. That was when we were, I think, able to go forward and do it. And it didn't feel right. It felt scary for a little while maybe, but now it really kind of feels like, okay, I can be in a room full of a bunch of people and I'm not, we have enough, I don't know, developments that we're not going to endanger anyone any more than they're already endangered, including ourselves. So, yeah. We're definitely going to tour more. We're definitely going to tour. Our month-long tour turned into a week-long tour in early 2020 because that's when the pandemic started. But next year we would really like to do some more touring, get back on the road, say hi to some friends, and see some places.
And find more vintage clothing for your shop.
Oh my God, we're gonna take 3 extra cars. We're gonna need to send packages back to our partners. Like,
oh boy.
This box. It's full of coats.
just coats.
Full of Southwestern coats.
Yeah. So tell me about a protection spell. I know this has been in the works for a while. Like, what inspired you to really get this going?
All right. Well, Lani and I have, since we've toured for a really long time and we love treasures. Okay, wait, I'm gonna rewind to when we first met in high school.
Whoa, we're going way back. Okay, let's go. We
Yeah,
got time.
yeah. I know, to make us feel old here. 100 years ago, back in high school, Lonnie and I used to be the people in the lunchroom that just used to pull random toys out of our bags and just like random, like, look at this thing I had at home. Look at this little pooping animal. Look at this. I have a jar of Nutella. We all have, and we were just always, yeah, pulling out random stuff. We were just, we've always been treasure people. Our mothers were both kind of little trinket treasure collectors, and it's sort of in our DNAs. So so when we started going on tour, we always would go to shops and especially like thrift, secondhand, vintage stores, etc., and just like collect treasures. And we've always been doing it. So we both started selling vintage just a little bit during the pandemic, and we already obviously loved found treasures. It's like going to the museum. You're you're in the museum of somebody else's life. It's really fascinating and beautiful, and you find such special things where everything is like Shein, H&M, fast fashion crap today. It's really cool to have like these really special items that like are maybe the last one of it in the world, even if 50 or 100 or 500 were produced. Maybe you got the last one. They're special items, and so that stuff is all really cool. And I work in an area of like sort of deeper end of Bushwick, border of Ridgewood and Brooklyn, Queens, and there's nothing around here like this. And so I was thinking of opening a spot around here, and so Lani and I decided to do it together, and yeah, it's fun to do like a business art project. Yeah, trying to keep our prices as low as possible for everybody and just sort of share the wealth of, like, because we have cars, we can go out into the world and just pick stuff up, and just want to bring back treasures for all the lovely folks around here to wear and enjoy.
What kind of research goes into finding old treasures to not only sell but to price appropriately?
Oh, pricing. I mean, it's a lot of research. It is. I mean, first we find the thing, because we never know where we're going to find something. And that's what's really fun, is digging and doing the hunting. And then I guess the more that we've done it and bought things, the easier it's becoming to kind of price and to see, what is old or what's worthy of being in the store. And some people, they're not going to pick the vintage that we're going to pick, and that's cool. And that's why you go to different vintage stores, because each place has something different. But yeah, the research process pretty much is just like looking it up and figuring, and trying to come up with a fair price that kind of exists somewhere between the price that we would sell things already at and what people sell it for.
Yeah, like, or also like what we paid for it. Like, obviously, even if it's a really nice item, we didn't pay like a crazy amount for it, then we're gonna make it a little more discounted for everybody, and just try to do the best that we can to share the wealth of the cool items. Yeah. Yeah.
My very novice experience exploring some of the vintage shops in like the Bushwick, Ridgewood area. I've seen a few different things. Like you said, each shop is kind of different. There's a few shops that have records, and there's a few shops that have like old wrestling t-shirts, which I found. So what is one or a few unique identifiers for Protection Spell versus other local vintage shops?
So a few things that make us different. One, we're not doing like buy sell trade. It's not the right business model for us, depending, it's sort of dependent on the space that you have. Our space is quite small, And in order to keep our prices low, if we do the sourcing ourselves, then we don't have to do an additional markup. Like we don't have folks bringing in other clothes that we resell and consign. We are currently only a little bit, but in the future going to consign local artists items. So some of it will also be like really cool wearable artisanal items. We are not going to have, you know, home items really. It's really just clothing and accessories. I think one thing that kind of sets us apart is that we've decided to not do a gendered layout. That didn't feel right to us. So basically you come in and things are organized by their section and general size. But we really want to make all people and bodies feel welcome in that space. And so if you are not ascribing to the gender binary, especially the cisgender binary, you know, like the cisgendered kind of layout, then and sizing, then you can feel welcome to come in and just find whatever you jive with and put it on, and that's that. And we also really want to work to have a lot of larger bodied items, so that everybody can feel, you know, I just hate when I walk in as like I'm not a, I don't know, my size is sort of in the middle maybe, and for some folks, not tiny, not big, but I kind of hate when I go to a thrift store or a vintage store rather. Not, it's usually vintage stores, like in Williamsburg, for example, where all they sell is just for teeny tiny bodies, and that's cool for teeny tiny bodies. But I like treasures too, and a lot of the shit does not fit me at all. And so, yeah, we've tried really hard to make sure that we're just being inclusive and welcoming to all of our friends and neighbors.
Well, thank you so much, Lani, Sara. This is your time to plug away all things Weeping Icon and Protection Spell.
Well, awesome. Thanks for having us on, Peter. We love you as a podcaster and as a person. Yeah.
True. We have a show December 8th at TVI, and it's with Martin BC. Sara actually performed with him on a record, and it's a release show. It's a release show for that record. And Live Skull is performing. They're like a 90s kind of post noise band.
Post noise.
I don't know, something like or free noise band.
Free post noise. Okay.
Yeah, I guess like someone claimed that they were like one of the bands that started noise rock.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't really know them, so I'm excited for that. And then the Norman Westberg from Swans is also performing too, and us. So it should be really fun. And that's December 8th. Other than that, we're working on a full length, and Protection Spell is doing a lot of stuff for the future. Working on it.
We're on Knickerbocker between Decatur and Cooper, and we're open Wednesday through Sunday, and you can find us on Google.
Wow. Social plugs, social handles.
At protection_spell_ at Weeping Icon, both on Instagram and nothing else. So, yeah, right?
Yep, that's it. That's us.
All right.
Thanks, Peter.
Thank you so much, icons.
Okay, good to see you.